Buenos días.
Good morning. How are you all? And very warm welcome to you all to the Telefónica Innovation Day 2021. My name is Elena Diaz Fuentes, or Helen Diaz Fuentes on Instagram, and I'm the person responsible for presenting this second edition of the Telefónica Innovation Day. How are you all? That's wonderful. It's wonderful to have people in the auditorium. And I'm not Annabelle Alonso. Don't ask me anything else. I say it's wonderful to have everybody here in the auditorium and me up on stage at last, because as you can see, contrary to the first edition of the Telefónica Innovation Day from last year in 2020, which was 100% online, this year we're doing it in a hybrid manner, which is all the fashion. People in the auditorium with us here and a lot of people, thousands, on the other side of the screen, connected via streaming through Workplace, Twitter, YouTube, Wira, and Telefónica, and thanks to the Watchity technology, one of our startups. So thank you very much to all of you for coming, and it's a pleasure to see that there is feedback from the other side of the stage. So in 2021, we're going to take up again from where we left off last year. We're going to talk about the novelties and two matters in particular: open innovation and core innovation, because as you well know, Telefónica innovates both inside and outside the company, all over the company. And to talk about this, we've invited the leading figures in the companies who are here and will be here with us on the stage. So before giving the floor to them and introducing you to them, I'm going to remind you that this is a conference that will be in Spanish and in English in some parts, and there is simultaneous interpreting both within the auditorium and for those of you who are connected via screening. We have a hashtag TEF, Telefónica TEF, Innovation Day. Use it, please, for any query, comment, or comments on what we're going to hear. We're going to have practical demonstrations on what we're actually doing, so pay attention. You can mention this via Twitter, and I'm going to give the floor to introduce you to our first speaker here of this first Innovation Day 2021. And when we talk about innovation in Telefónica, he has to be here because he's the Chief Digital Officer in Telefónica, who has come here to share with us his vision on innovation. And he's brought this with a very suggestive title: We Transform Innovation into Reality. Or as he says more colloquially, we do fine plumbing. Let's give a round of applause to Chema Alonso. Welcome. Hello, how are you? Oh, you kind of look like Annabelle. Thank you to all of you for coming. And well, for us, it's not doing something hybrid. We've always done our events with streaming. And so for us, this is kind of like going back to organizing normal events. Thanks to all of you who are here. We're grateful to see some eyes of real people here instead of looking at the camera. So thanks to all of you too who are connected via internet, because if you found some time in your working day to join us, that is very nice. So I'm been in Telefónica now for 10 years, and I've spoken a lot, said a lot of things, and the main players are David and Irene, who are the managers in charge of core innovation and open innovation, where there are a lot of people working. But as I had some 10 minutes at the start, I wanted to talk to you about something, and that is what is going through my head when it comes to doing innovation. Because I've been fortunate enough since I joined Telefónica, as I said when I arrived here, well, we were talking about having a sledge. I mean, I said that I wanted to do technology, and Telefónica is the place to do technology, and I needed to be prepared to create the future of what our technologies were going to be. We're at the center of internet, which is the big revolution in our generation that we've saw being created and which has occupied a large part of our lives. And what I wanted to share with you is a feeling that I've always had. And since I began to work here in Telefónica, I have had had this very much inside of me, and this is this feeling that everything moves, whether you like it or not. One could say, for example, that you cannot deny or refuse to use Twitch and NFTs or cryptocurrencies, but basically those things, they don't care whether you deny them because things will continue to move forward. And that feeling in me creates a great deal of anxiety because the world is moving very quickly. In fact, I was talking to my colleagues in the ExCom in Telefónica, and I said, look, I joined the ExCom almost 6 years ago now, and I was the youngest in that ExCom, and 6 years have gone by now, and I'm still the youngest. We have all aged a lot. But over these last few years, the volume of technology and the progress made in science and technology that has come along has been amazing. And it's impossible to take on all of it and to move at the same speed as the technological progress has made in society, because increasingly these technologies are moving more and more quickly. So how many of you have an NFT? Have you ever bought one? How many of you have cryptocurrencies? A lot more. And how many of you have done a Twitch? And how many of you have connected up and to consume Twitch? And 6 years ago, none of this existed, or maybe some of these things existed, but not on a mass scale as we're seeing now. And increasingly, they are moving more quickly. And it creates anxiety in me. And when we look at the curve of adoption and new technologies, before we talked about the early adopters and when the rest of the population joined, and then the curve would take us to occupy 100% of the market share. And the early adopters are increasingly more people, we're older, and the share of the market in every discipline is growing more and more quickly. So with the spirit of the first getting hold of everything is making all companies now focus on technologies and services much more quickly in order to get to the maximum market share in the least time. And that certainly generates a lot of anxiety in me. I adore technology, and I think that if you don't think about innovating, you're not thinking about what the next step has to be, what your present will be next year or within 3 years' time. And it's essential for us to focus on that innovation. So since I joined Telefónica, and I was fortunate enough to be in this innovative environment, what I've attempted to do is see how we can ensure that innovation is much faster and can reach the market much faster, so that it comes out as soon as possible, so that we can do the fastest possible delivery, and then we can iterate. And I always give the example of iPhones. It didn't copy and paste, didn't record videos or anything, but it came out. It was launched with the famous golden pad when the telephone wasn't even completed, but the demonstration worked and it came out on the market, and then they iterated it and did the delivery. And the delivery for us is like this game. Those of you who have innovated for many years will know the airtight, and this you move along phase by phase. You'll have lots of attacks. Many of them will be mistakes you make, problems in technology that you thought would be easier to resolve, and people who will compete with you, competitors, evolutions in the market, things that will change the phases. And in the end, you have to get to the end of the phase, which is to manage to do the delivery and put it in production. So therefore, from the vision we have in innovation in Telefónica, what we attempt to do is say, right, we're not starting from phase one in the game. We already have a platform. We'll start to innovate incrementally on top of those platforms using voice. On that voice, we create the ESPs and offer services in internet. We reach people's homes, not only telephone and internet, but also start managing a wireless network in all homes. And then we take television there and we create our own operating system there, our own set-top box where we integrate third parties and interactive experiences, video on demand. And on top of all the services we'd built in 2016, we built the fourth platform in order to consolidate and standardize Telefónica data, to standardize APIs, and to have a single identification and authentication system to manage privacy, consents, etc. And on top of that, we've continued to build, and and built the home as a computer model and all the equipment we have in homes, which has allowed us, as you will see, and as you will be able to check if your customers, to have crossed experiences between all the technologies and equipment. And we've taken those experiences further, voice, living apps, etc. And this vision to continue iterating on those platforms is what we maintain internally. Some of them will work, others will have to pivot, others will fail, and others will be integrated from outside. But we need to continue in this race, because otherwise, whether you want to stand still or not, the world will move forward. So to achieve this in Telefónica, we have these two lines of work, what we call the delivery of innovation, which is continuous, of a wide spectrum. I've just invented this, but it really sounds quite cool. And basically, I've been trying to explain what is going through my mind when we do things. Internally, we use as a starting point a crazy idea, which might be somebody who in core innovation, or somebody in the product team, or somebody in innovation meetings, and things that crop up, ideas that crop up, because fortunately Telefónica is a very innovative company, and the people that we have contribute a great many ideas where we do innovation calls, etc. And that crazy idea, if it makes sense, because it takes a long time for that crazy idea to become a product or to be part of a product, and there are lots of other ideas that get left along the way. So we try to ensure that we do a proof of concept, quick and dirty, to test, to ensure that that idea might make sense in the future. And so we start creating an innovation squad then, and these are teams within core innovation that will be working on that idea, and who will be facing up to the challenge of budget, validation of the market, etc., and which will ensure that that idea matures in increasingly shorter periods of time. And I can guarantee, and David will be here and will be able to tell us, in the last 5 years, those timeframes have become shorter, and there's greater demand for delivery for the next phase and checkpoint. And when things work, we need to ensure that it becomes a product without interrupting the normal cycle, because the product is innovating more in the short term. Occasionally, these are needs that are set down by the day-to-day of the service, or incremental improvements necessary to continue innovating. And the only way to connect those things is by means of prototype teams and teams that are integrated directly with the engineering teams. And that is what I call implants, where the innovation teams start working within the project plan, within the roadmap of the product team, because otherwise it's impossible. Without innovation competing for engineering resources and products, it's impossible to be able to innovate. And those of you who are in innovation, I share your frustration. I just know just how difficult it is. But it's not enough. However much we have goodwill, this world is enormous, and we need to test everything, and we don't know what direction the world is going to go in. There's a great deal of uncertainty. We don't know if it's going to go to nanotechnology, robots, and whether we're going to have cryptocurrencies in our services, or whether we'll have e-health, teleassistance, and we don't know in what direction our technologies will need to evolve. So we've got to open up the spectrum, and to do that, it is through open innovation, looking for those entrepreneurs that bring us those crazy ideas, those new proposals. Many of them will fail, others will merge, and others will become part of the services of other companies, and others will become big unicorns. And so therefore our mission is, from open innovation, to see how we can support them and learn from them to integrate and improve our services. We work with a strategy which for many years has been very successful, where we've invested in startups, where we've done investments that are very well selected, from ventures, to be able to ensure that those startups that we're going to put in the core of some of our Telefónica services can guarantee their continuity, because we can't put in technology that's not going to evolve at the rhythm that Telefónica needs, and to ensure that these come in within Telefónica and that it's easier, because the same problems that our innovation teams have on an initial basis are had by startups. And so we create prototyping teams to create the pilot studies and to ensure that these are not a problem for the product roadmaps, because the product has to always continue bringing out new versions within the deadlines. And we've continued to do a lot of things. Sometimes the crazy idea is something like this. This is a diagram that I drew when in 2016 I had to do the design of the fourth platform. It was a crazy idea. It was a piece of paper. It was a first idea of what it is we wanted to build. And that crazy idea needed to be reflected. And it makes you adapt constantly to each of the situations that you find in Telefónica, because nothing stops whilst you innovate. You have to continue working at the same speed. So for that, the two teams we're going to have is the core innovation and open innovation team. They're going to talk to us about some of their projects that they have been working on. One of the fundamental parts of innovation in the network, well, we're a telecommunications company which is proud to be a telecommunications company, and we've been innovating and providing a backbone for the company to ensure that in the countries that we operate in, all services that are ensuring that countries can develop through technology can do so in a guaranteed manner. And in this pandemic, those of you here will have seen how this has happened. So congratulations to the Telefónica Spain team. I have been a customer, and we've seen that we've been able to continue living our lives thanks to that technology. So the team from innovation has worked on what direction we have to move in, and we're going to see some examples of 5G, but some very relevant projects too, such as the Magnet project to do software networks in Germany, millimetric waves, to see how we can get quality similar to fiber without the need of doing a deployment of fiber. As you know, Telefónica has invested a great deal in creating a company called Telefónica Infra to develop those new technologies. And of course, we're working for many years now in edge computing that will evolve our day-to-day in homes and cities. In the case of homes, we've also been mixing lots of technologies, and I've brought some outlines here. This video is really cool. I really like it because it's not only communications. Well, it's only communications. It's calling. It's our DNA. But in this video, what we're going to see is what we mix in terms of the fourth platform, our traditional calls, innovation that we've done in the data networks to build in Gilte, and OTT services such as Zoom. We've converted your home phone into a platform where you can talk with all of those devices and with all those channels by means of all those technologies. And we integrate both the Wi-Fi and television in order to ensure that the video conferences can be seen in real time. So let's see this just for a minute. There you have it.
Ok, Yaura.
Bueno, como veis, ay, no me quites.
As you can see, you've got calls using voice, fourth platform to authenticate, and video calls via Wi-Fi. And thanks to the fact we've got fiber and can make use of the broadband, we can convert the fixed phone into a video conference fixed phone in order to make calls. And since we have the architecture, we can include television to ensure that the video call experience is great on a big screen. And with your mobile phone, you can make a call, a normal call, but you can also use Birte because we have deployed video this in our networks. And we have also been integrating Zoom. How many of you have used Zoom in this last month? Most of you. Well, from your fixed phone at home, your landline, this has integrated Movistar Zoom. So that's to do with telecommunications. And in terms of how we've used all these platforms that we have integrated, well, the best example is Smart Wi-Fi, a product that has been built between the networks team, the IT teams from our colleague Enrique Blanco, the innovation team, the product team, and we are working all at the same time on Wi-Fi saves to provide the best quality Wi-Fi and using a router such as the smart Wi-Fi router, which is controlled from the back end. So if you have any problems, you can make a phone call and it will be managed remotely. And mobile apps that we have where we are integrating new product innovations such as profiles, and we've got the coverage maps that we're including and safe connections so that the Wi-Fi from your home is protected against malware and that you have a more satisfactory experience, and to ensure Wi-Fi works better. And all this integrated based on the app experience and the TV experience through the Living app. And by using voice or the remote control, you can optimize your channel and have a safe connection to see if you have any security incidents. And what you have there at the bottom is the gaming on. In Telefónica, we are focusing a great deal on ensuring that our networks are the best to enjoy the world of gaming, and the innovation teams have been working on this feature that allows you to guarantee traffic for devices that will be used for gaming. David is going to tell us about that later. And apart from that, there are a couple of other things that are special for gamers. And television too, as a center for entertainment where consuming content, quality content for us is very relevant, but as it is a platform that we integrate within our ecosystem, well, of course, this is a multi-device which allows us to integrate the experiences of third parties. We have a TV platform based on the set-top box that offers guaranteed quality for high resolution events. If you want to see an event of 4K in real time and do this using a television platform that guarantees quality, this can only be done if you have a platform such as this. And we've worked on this to integrate the experience with voice, Aura, and we've integrated second screen experiences and to enjoy in real time football matches or comments on Twitter. And in this example we have here, you can see this because it's an example of how we've been innovating on television. In the field of television, this is real-time control of the voice via Aura. This is screen to make it tactile, the control, and the most important thing is to enjoy the TV experience at all moments in time. And the second screen, and this is what people are requesting more. We have in this case an integration with the League, which allows us to see all the statistics in real time. With Twitter, we've worked on ensuring that all the TV programs using Twitter moments can show what is happening on the social media, and then the Living Up experiences where you can access post-match information in the case of the Atlético de Madrid, for example. So these are just examples on how to invest so many years in developing these technologies to create those experiences. And of course, we go a lot further than those experiences. Today, we're going to talk also about the Living Apps, where the innovation team for television has been doing fantastic work to bring platforms such as Movistar Campus, where you have all types of content in edutainment, where we have content from the main companies that are creating this. We've created an e-commerce channel for television, and we've integrated new podcast and video podcast services that you can see on the right, which is the dashboard for gamers, which is on the second screen so that you have guaranteed connection, etc. So we have a lot of little experiences that are enriching us and improving the way we enjoy technology in our homes, and that are making technology into the leading channel to take technology to the homes of our countries. And so, as you well know, we've launched Movistar Game Pass, the cloud gaming service from Microsoft, integrated into all of our technologies. But it's not enough, and we need a lot more. We need many more entrepreneurs. We need a lot more crazy ideas. We need to bring a lot more technology to our services. And for this, the part on open innovation that Irene is going to talk to us about, where we have a lot of strategies that we've been working on for many years. There have been a lot of people in the open innovation area, and in the 10 years that Wyra has been around, we've got innovation ventures, and we've been focusing on a lot of entrepreneurs. And so we wanted to go a step further, and for this purpose, we wanted crazy ideas co-created with entrepreneurs. So we created a vehicle called Wyra Builder, and what we do here is mix crazy ideas from Telefónica that we're not going to be able to develop because of broadband with entrepreneurs who enrich on those crazy ideas and take them a step further. And we create startups. We've created 4: Dida, Shadow, Tech4Safe, and Wiper. And we launched them from Telefónica with ideas that we have co-created jointly. And we've looked for more crazy ideas. The more crazy, the better. And if we see that they could work, we created Wyra X, and what we support there are entrepreneurs with crazy ideas to render services, which of course we don't have within Telefónica, and which in the future could be useful for people. So we've created Wyra X, where we've created our first startups, and we did our first investments there. We've invested in 35 startups, helping them to accelerate and to help them to connect with Telefónica, because for us it's very important for those entrepreneurs to end up bringing all their technology to Telefónica. And what for me is perhaps the most interesting thing is the nicest project that we've been working on with very carefully, and that is in the creation of the Leadwind Fund for scale-ups, which will be created by our dear Genya, who's you're there, aren't you? Who's been working on innovation for many years. And for me, this was the next step. We have spent 10 years helping startups. We've changed the lives of many entrepreneurs and many startups in Telefónica, and we've invested in startups that have become scale-ups, and some of them have been sold for billions, and such as the last one that was sold for $1 billion in a startup that had invested in innovation ventures. I think I said that correctly. And we wanted to ensure that those scale-ups, those startups, could change the life of Telefónica. So we started working on a new project in January, and it was approved by the ExCom and the board of directors in July. And we announced that it is Lewin, and Irene will talk about this in more detail in her section. So that's all. Thank you very much. And sorry it took up more time, but as I'm the boss, I'm perfectly entitled to do so. You're dead right. You said, yes, 20 minutes, but no, 10 and 20. And in the end, well, he's the boss anyway. So thank you very much, Chena. And I'm tired just from listening to exactly what you do. And then, of course, to actually put it in practice and implement it, my God. Anyhow, this innovation and roadmap in Telefónica is quite amazing. As Chema said, the world is going to move forward, and Telefónica moves forward with it. So I remember a phrase of what Chema said. He said a lot of good things, but I just remember one thing because there's not much time. But if you don't think about innovating, no, I can't understand what I've written. You're not thinking about the next step. So Telefónica is not only thinking about the next step, but the next steps after that. So now we're going to talk about crazy ideas, because we're going to start the section on open innovation.
Y comenzamos hablando de
And we'll start by talking about the generation of open innovation through strategic partnerships with partners or third parties. And Chema has already said, he's given away the secret, the person responsible for innovation in Telefónica, Irene. Let's have a round of applause for Irene Hoffman. And I'll sit here with her because Irene has prepared a welcome to back. And she's prepared a roundtable with 3 strategic partners in Telefónica that are startups, as Chema said, the corporates and the institutions. But before this roundtable, I wanted to ask 3 quick questions to Irene, because she's named her section Together We Can Go Further, which is referring to these partners. And one of them, as Chima said, one of these crazy ideas are the startups. And last year you brought the Hall of Fame to us. This year we'd like you to talk about this Hall of Fame and what startups you're bringing here. Well, first of all, it makes me feel really good to be sitting here. I hadn't seen myself up here for a long time. And yes, we've come to talk about startups. 414 startups that are active in our portfolio, in fact. And these are startups which every year, as you mentioned, Elena, we collect up the best ones, the most outstanding ones in terms of growth or their turnover because of their technological innovation or their value proposition. And we've set up the Hall of Fame, which for this year, there are 43 startups that we have selected that are outstanding and that we need to keep our eye on. And you'll see national startups, international startups. You'll see startups that are in an early stage or others that are in the growth phase. And there's legal tech, education, fintechs, entertainment, health, gaming. So there's a huge diversity, a lot of optionality too in these projects. And in amongst them, there are three that I'd like to talk about in more detail. The first one is Haya, which is a startup that we invested in the UK from Wyra. And it has a platform that allows one to detect spam and fraudulent calls, but voice calls. And in fact, it's a technology and a platform that is integrated with the network infrastructure from the operators, but it has an OEM part too, and it uses machine learning or automatic learning in real time. And so imagine the scope. It's detecting spam in 1.2 billion spam calls per month in a basis of more than 2 billion users. So it's very powerful. And I brought this example to you because I'm very fond of the fact that you can create a value proposition for companies. And I don't know whether you know that 94% of calls that we receive, and we don't know who the caller is and who is actually calling us, they're not answered. It happens to me, and I'm sure it happens to you all too, when you don't know who it is and you might not answer the phone. Yes, often it's just to bore you. But Haya, what it allows you to do is customize those calls so that the user, so that we, when we receive a call, can see what company is calling us, where it is located, see what its logo type is, and even go a step forward and know the reason why they're calling. So I think it changes the way in which those companies can relate to their customers or their future customers. Sorry to interrupt you, but I imagine that in the end, this will affect the effectiveness and productivity of companies, won't it? Yes. And you don't have to waste time, wait for people to call you back. Yes, and for us, it's a unicorn possibility. So we'll see whether in the next 2 years things will come true. And the next thing I wanted to talk about to you about, and Gemma mentioned this, is Altiostat. It is a startup that we decided to invest in 2019 from Telefónica Ventures. And we did this because it offered us a partnership that was strategic in nature with a software company in the field of Open RAN's virtualization. It's a way of deploying networks. And as Chema said, it's important to look for that innovation in our own core, even from the outside. And what it allows in solutions such as Altios is the softwareization and on a large scale. And I've brought this here because the first reason is because I think it shows this rapprochement, this step that Telefónica took to begin working with innovative companies, such as for the deployment of networks, and that shows the essence as to why we invest in open innovation. And the second thing, which has also been mentioned by Chema, is because after 2 years after the investment and with a valuation of $1 billion, it was acquired in August by Rakuten, and we have doubled or multiplied by 5 our investment. So this is an important message for investors. Well, to have a return like that, certainly, and in such a short time frame. You said 2 years. Yes, because in the Hall of Fame, other companies may follow in the steps of Altiostar. Is that right? Yes, well, in the end, people are copycats. And what's the third one?
Yeah, those of you who know me know that I really like cybersecurity and everything related to that. And here's a startup called Elias Robotics. Robotics is something we see as revolutionary. And we're going to see more and more robots in our daily lives, not just in industrial context. Everyone knows that robots are used a lot in industry. But I think we're going to see them increasingly in our homes and also providing public services. And I think one of the main challenges here is to be wary about cyber attacks that we might see attacking robots. And so we have to decide to invest in 2020 in this company, Elias. They're from Alava, and they've been working for over more than 2 years and specializing in robotics. And there's something I really like, and that is the RIS. It's the robot immune system. So it's like an immune system, but for the robot, and it helps them to detect viruses and to adapt and to learn from attacks. But what I really like about it is not just the innovation itself, because I think this is going to be really exciting in the next few years, but what I really like about it is that we've done something unique with them. We've created the first robotics cybersecurity laboratory in the world, and we've set this up in our installations in Weira in Germany, in Munich. So I think there's another really good example which shows what we're doing in our portfolio. Yes, I sort of have to repeat this, but I don't know if you're aware of what you just said. No, repeat this for those on Twitter, because you said the first robotic cybersecurity laboratory, thanks to Telefónica TIC and Weira in Munich. Yes, that's it, yes. So this is great because they're from Alava, and they're in Munich. So Spanish talent. That's right. If you want to know more, we have the Hall of Fame on the website, and I think it's worth taking a look at the startups that we can see there. So there's a lot of potential then, isn't there? Telefónica and Weira. Now, because there's a round table next with 3 colleagues. We've got one at a startup, a corporate, and an institution. The question is, why have you brought them here today? What's the purpose of this round table? Well, yes, the aim is that after more than 10 years working with Telefónica and helping them to connect with innovative startups, we've learned a lot of things. And for a while now, we've been starting to help other corporations and public institutions to incorporate this innovation from the world of entrepreneurs into their growth model. And so we've got 3 specific examples that we've been working on, and I hope they can inspire other companies so they can incorporate this innovative aspect into their internal growth model. Okay, so let's see what they have to say, and I'm sure it will be inspiring. So Elena Gomez is going to present the 3 guests now. Thank you very much, Elena.
Well, I'm going to switch to English. We're going to have a round table now in English. Let me first introduce the participants. We are going to have 3, as Elena was mentioning, 3 stakeholders: startup, institution, corporation, but also an investor. And let me first introduce Jan Bigger, that is here with me on the stage. Jan drives the General Electric healthcare ecosystem strategy and develops cooperation with partners, with indirect channels, startups, and networks. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you very much.
And we have also online, connected remotely, Irene Arias, that is connected from Washington, if I'm right. Irene is the CEO of IDB Lab, the innovation lab of Inter-American Development Bank Group, with the purpose to drive innovation for inclusion, transforming the lives of vulnerable people. Welcome, Irene. And
muchas gracias.
Bienvenida. And then we have also connected remotely Alan Lowe, the CEO and co-founder of the startup Visionable. Alan began his career in the healthcare at the UK Health Service, and this experience gave Alan a deep understanding of the challenges and opportunities of public health. So welcome all of you, and if you want, let's begin with you, Jan, to break the ice. So you know that our paths grows early this year. We are helping General Electric from WIDA to build and to create an ecosystem that connects e-health startups with partners, with other providers. So I'm talking about Edison Accelerator, and I would love to share with all the audience why Edison Accelerator and what is the purpose of this initiative.
Thank you, Irene. Look, I would like to give first a little bit of context, and I think that's important to better understand what we are doing in this program. First of all, I would say there are just a few other industries that are as complex, comprehensive, but also fascinating as healthcare. Right, and probably the most of you have read headlines about artificial intelligence surpassing the performance of human doctors in medicine. On an earlier slide, we have seen the term nanobot nurses, which sounds interesting. But all this is in stark, let's say, difference and contrast to the reality in the clinical setting today. Yeah? Healthcare today is behind other industries in terms of digital transformation and the adoption of artificial intelligence and such kind of technologies. And maybe, Ellen, you would agree to this. What we need to do in this domain is to really collaborate with a variety of different stakeholders, and I will talk about this, to really, in an open innovation model, to really bring this digital transformation forward. Because another reality is today that in a lot of countries in Europe and other, let's say, geographies, healthcare still heavily relies on, for example, fax machines. But beside this, there are many more, let's say, major problems this industry is facing. I just have a couple of interesting data points for you, which I quickly would like to share. Look, and there are maybe three major, let's say, challenges the healthcare industry is facing. Number one is the massive explosion of data in that industry. It takes just 73 days nowadays to double medical data. I mean, picture this. This is just from now until, I think, mid of January or something like this. And there are 6,000 medical journals out there publishing 900,000 articles each and every year. And this basically translates to the need for a general practitioner to, when he wants to keep up with primary care literature, to read for 21 hours every day, right? Which is impossible.
Impossible.
No? And for example, in a mammogram, there is more information than in the telephone book of New York. Right? Maybe someone here at Telefónica can tell me if there is actually still a physical telephone book of New York. And look, just one more example. In radiology, right, the domain of medical imaging, a radiologist, a doctor there, in a 12-hour shift, has to review about 50,000 images, compared to just 500 like 15 years ago. So data explosion is one big issue we are facing. Another one is medical errors. There are 40 million medical errors every year, and it's estimated in Europe that up to 350,000 patients die every year due to medical errors. And another problem, and then I stop talking about examples, is the shortage of healthcare professionals, which today is 7 million, and it's estimated in 2035 that we miss 14 million healthcare professionals globally. And of course, you can imagine what this would lead to and so on. And this is a big issue for us today. There's not enough young people joining this domain. A lot of retirement happening over the next couple of years, so a big issue. And look, this is the context, Irene, in which we have, together with the great partner at Wira UK, have launched the Edison Accelerator, which is, on one hand side, a startup acceleration program, but also a healthcare provider collaboration program. And why is this? Because when we think about corporate acceleration programs, right, and maybe I just simplify, there is the big corporate coming up with some fancy ideas and then trying to find some innovative startups to work on those. This is not working in healthcare. What we need in this domain is we need to involve those who deliver healthcare day in and day out. Yeah, and those are healthcare provider institutions, hospitals. And the foundation of our program is to identify specific pressing problems those healthcare institutions have, right? And based on this, we find the right startups and work on those. And what we are doing here is we want to bring health tech startups, right, those great data scientists, engineers, developers, together with healthcare professionals for advisory, mentoring, clinical guidance, so that they can build solutions that really can make an impact on those problems. That's the core of the program. And what it also provides is, beside all the clinical mentoring and relationship, is also access to healthcare data. Our healthcare provider partners can provide data, which is very important for AI development. They also provide an opportunity at a later stage to run a pilot or proof of concept. And we as G Healthcare, with our large global footprint and operations in more than 160 countries globally, we can, beside our technology, can then support with things like go-to-market commercialization and so on and so forth. So this is, in a nutshell, Irene, this program.
And it's interesting to share that we have, in the program, we have 6 startups, and they share they have something in common, and this is the use of artificial intelligence as a technological enabler to drive the value propositions. In this sense, artificial intelligence is not the only technological enabler we have. We, for example, have 5G, as 5G is opening new opportunities to create new clinical pathways. We have with us Alan. Alan, as I mentioned, is the CEO of Visionable and is one of our invested startups at Wira. And one of the key products is the connected the smart ambulance, and that is using 5G, and we pilot with O2, and it's also in the same areas as Jan was mentioning. Alan, can you just share with us what is a smart ambulance project?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. And just to follow on from what Jan said, is that I'm currently in Cardiff Hospital at the moment, so I'm on site and I've spent the day in the A&E department. And really the big challenge is workforce. You know, it's the biggest challenge, you know, not enough people and they're not coming through fast enough. So one of the things that we've done is we've done an end-to-end stroke pathway, digitized the whole pathway. And part of that is the smart ambulance. So at the start of the pathway, when a patient has a stroke, time is brain cells. You know, once those brain cells die, you can't get them back. So it's so crucial to get expertise to the patient. So what the smart ambulance does is it effectively brings the medical expertise from the hospital to the patient in the ambulance. And there's a lot of benefits to that. One is time. You know, you can treat the patient in the ambulance. Others is the surgical theatre and the emergency rooms can see the patient en route. And then in other cases, you can completely divert the patient from the hospital where they don't need to go to a hospital and clog up the A&E departments. So, yeah, so connected ambulance is part of a pathway, but essentially it is connectivity to the ambulance with the diagnosis going back to the hospital so that it's as if you were there, really. And what that does is it allows you to call on expertise from anywhere. So, as I said, one of the biggest challenges is you might be in an area where you don't have enough stroke consultants or cardiologists or so on. But yeah, and then obviously in that pathway it moves forward, and we do have things like AI for the scanning to make the brain scan even quicker. So lots of different technologies aligned in the smart ambulance, and we are working with GE and some other with Telefónica on the connectivity. So, yeah, it's a new model of care, which is really what innovation is.
And what is true is that with this kind of developments, what we are doing is putting the patient at the center. That is something that maybe we have missed during a lot of time. And for you, Alan and Jan, how far do we are from the real use of AI and video conference in the healthcare space? What do you think?
Yeah. So when I think about artificial intelligence as a kind of technology or enabler, I think it's still early days we are in the healthcare space. And look, there are a couple of major barriers that we are facing to get to really broad adoption. I mean, things like education skills, right? This is one major thing we are working on right now as an industry, is to educate and tell doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals about the basics of AI. Because when you understand the principle, right, it leads to trust. And this is what we also need in healthcare, because you all know healthcare is a people business, is a human touch business, and it's all about trust. So doctors, nurses, they need to trust this technology, and therefore we need to educate them, and we need to get to proper clinical efficacy, and we need to do proper studies to really show that to build trust. And then in addition to this, right, just two more things. One is in healthcare we have this issue of heavily, in the most areas, heavily outdated IT infrastructure, where we have to plug all these new technologies like AI onto, right? And this is challenging as well. And then last but not least is health economics. We need to make sure that right, hospitals or any stakeholder in the market investing in technologies such as AI, that they get proper return of investment.
Okay. And we've been from Telefónica for Innovation working for a long time with the IDB, trying to promote and support entrepreneurship in the Latin American region. And Irene, I don't know if you remember, but we started collaborating in 2017 in a project where we were creating spaces in Peru and trying to promote entrepreneurship in these regions where they were not supported. And after these 3 years, 53 startups has been accelerated, and it has generated more than 120 jobs. And now I know that you have just announced a new project. I must say we are very proud to be part of from WIDA, that is the Corporate Impact Venture in Latin America and Caribe. Irene, can you just share with us the purpose of this project?
Yeah, thank you, Irene, for this invitation, and great to be with you, Jan and Alan here. And maybe picking up from why we're doing this and what got us to that project is that as the IDB Group is the main development finance provider to Latin America and the Caribbean, and as part of our strategy, we see, of course, the potential of innovation as a tool to achieve better growth. The problem we're tackling is the fact that the region is one of the most unequal in the world. So when you hear the examples of the gaps that Jan and Alan were talking about, they are even greater in Latin America and the Caribbean, and far greater for those that are in more poor and vulnerable situations. So we're trying to tackle that. We know that the only way to do that is to really tap into the massive amount of ideas, innovation potential, and entrepreneurship. And so within the IDB Group, we at IDB Lab focused specifically on promoting being that venture arm. And a lot of the things that Chema talked about earlier are the things that we do from within the IDB Group. And we, of course, we have a lot of hope because just in this year, we think that there will be close to $14 billion of investment in venture capital in Latin America and the Caribbean. This is more than the last 3 years combined. But we want to make sure that that funding goes to more places across the region. It's currently very, very concentrated in just a handful of countries, and also goes to fields like healthcare that need so much revolution and transformation. And without this connection between institutions like us as kind of honest brokers, partners like Telefónica, and corporates in this field and startups, it's not going to happen. So that's why we started the Corporate Impact Venture Initiative that we announced last week at the IDP Forum with you, and we hope that we can accelerate that pathway of making it easier, creating less friction in terms of connecting innovative solutions in this case in the healthcare space and other verticals with the public system, but also with corporations that are also innovating here. So we have multiple. We have more than 2,000 partners in the region that we can make part of this. Just in the case of, for example, in Argentina, CITES. It's an innovation center with Grupo Sancor Seguros, a financial cooperative focused on insurance products and health services. And CITES invests in startups with solutions in biotech, in nanotechnology, in engineering. So bringing together partners like that through our Corporate Impact Venture Initiative, I think we can achieve a lot more impact and really expand the benefits of that. And I love what Jan said at the beginning. In really solutions that are centered around the people that really need it. So really looking forward to the results of that.
And with that objective, Irene, which are the key results you are expecting from that project? Do you have some key results in the next years?
Yeah, well, we want to have a very deliberate focus on making sure that the solutions that come out of this Corporate Impact Venturing platform are inclusive and reach at least 5,000 poor and vulnerable population in Latin America and the Caribbean. We also think that we can strengthen at least 600 startups and help them partner up effectively with corporations. And we hope that 40% of those are led or co-led by women. So that
would be great.
Those are some of the results.
And you can see in this roundtable that we are sharing different strategies to promote the connection between startups and corporations and institutions. In your opinion, which is the key to make this successful? Just for those maybe that are listening to us that are thinking about working in this type of projects.
I mean, what comes to my mind is maybe two things very quickly. One is you should work on the right problems, first of all, right? On problems that make an impact and are important for all the stakeholders involved. That's number one. And the second, and maybe the most important one, and also something we have seen in the relationship with the team at Wira UK, is that at the end it's all about the people, right? You need to find the right people, right, across all the stakeholders to work with, people with a keen interest to drive, in our case, like digital transformation, with passion to do this. And I think that's, for me personally, really the key to success here.
I think, Alan, from the point of view of a startup, which is the magic sauce to make things happen?
I think, in a word, alignment, sort of building on from what Jan said, you got to align everyone to, organizations have got corporate goals, startups have got goals, but there's also the problem you're solving. So I think the secret sauce is alignment, getting the respective targets and objectives aligned, and then getting, to Jan's point, the people motivated to go on that journey together.
Okay. I'm going to finish this roundtable asking you to complete the following sentence. Talking about open innovation and entrepreneurship, 2022 will be the year in which we are going to see. What do you think, Irene?
Well, definitely more corporations and startups bringing new opportunities for impact in Latin America and the Caribbean.
Okay. Jan or Alan? What we are going to see next year?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, look, I just highlighted a few of the problems in healthcare, and all of those problems have been really brought to the main stage with the pandemic, right? 2021 was a year where we really have seen a lot of attention and an understanding across different countries and healthcare institutions that digital health is important. We have to invest in this. We need to bring this forward. We need to drive this forward. 2022 will be the year where we see broader adoption of those technologies and broader acceptance of those technologies, and where we hopefully also will see that digital technologies really can make a positive impact to patient care.
Yeah. And what do you think, Alan?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's you'll start to see the digital future of care start to emerge, underpinned by digital technology. The way we used to consume healthcare, you'll start to, I think, see completely new models, which is the start of the future, which really for me is a connected workforce, bringing the system to the patient as opposed to having the patient go around the system.
Okay. So thank you all of you for sharing your experience, and thank you for joining in this Innovation Day that is very special for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We say goodbye. Okay, we say goodbye to Jan, and we say goodbye to Alan and Irene, and of course Irene Gomez, who's been our fantastic moderator. I was going to summarize this roundtable, but we're running out of time, or running behind schedule. So I'm just going to keep one word, which is the secret sauce for this collaboration between Telefónica and Strategic. ¿Y por qué estoy hablando en inglés? Pues bien, I'm talking. The key word is alignment to make an impact. Y ahora sí, voy a cambiar al español para pasar.
So now I'm going to go into Spanish to go to the third and last session of this Innovation Day in Telefónica, which is core innovation.
Ya lo decíamos al principio y lo comentamos.
I was saying at the beginning, and Gemma said this, we've seen innovation in Telefónica is everywhere. It's not just about innovating through third parties and strategic partners, as we're going to see in this roundtable, which is going to be moderated by Elena Gomez, the Director of Open Innovation, but also we have to innovate from within. And we've seen a lot of examples from Gemma, and he said that David Deval is coming. And so that's it. So he's coming, and we're going to talk about core innovation, or what he calls doing things with your hands. So there's no better person to present this section than the Director of Core Innovation in Telefónica, which is David Elval. Welcome. Well, we have to raise expectations, don't we? I mean, we've raised the bar, really. So we have to go even further now. Yes, I'm going to explain what we've been saying, yes. Yes, it's great to be with you here physically. Now, I'm sure we're going to be a little bit delayed, and we can take us a bit of time to finish the session. But those of you here, you don't mind, because you're not going to eat until I've finished eating, so I think you're going to leave. And those who are in streaming will just say, look, this is going to be really interesting, so please wait a little bit longer. So in Telefónica, we don't just innovate with these fantastic startups that we're seeing, but we also do things with our hands. We create intellectual property, and this intellectual property is something that we convert into products and technology, which we then make available to our customers. And of everything we do, I'm going to focus on two things. How we're creating the future to have the best experience in the home, and secondly, how we're helping our partners to get to the millions of customers that Telefónica has. So I'm going to start with the home. In the home, we use networks for a lot of things, internet, on the PC, on the phone. It works really well. To see the television with fiber optics, which is a great experience. And then recently, we have two activities. We start playing multi-game games, which is really asks a lot of the network. And then we also work a lot from home. Now, to talk about these two issues, I'm going to ask Juan Bacias and José Gual to come. Now, these are experts in Telefónica. And so, how are you doing? Great. So, Juan, we'll start with you. What are we doing for gamers? Yes, thanks, David. Now, if we go back, we can see how the gaming industry has changed a lot. And there's what we see is that connectiveness is more important to the value chain. Now, if you go back, we see a few years ago, we went from just playing alone in your home to playing online against people all around the planet. And then a few years later, we had Battle Royale, and then we got Fortnite. What that does is it brings 100 people together in the same room, and those who with poor connectivity just can't do anything. Now, and that's cloud gaming, what we have more recently. So instead of having it on your console, it's on the cloud in a data center 100 kilometers away, and this video streaming is then sent to our homes through the communication network. And so if you don't have a good connection, it's game over. And for these reasons, from the innovation area in Telefónica, we've spent a few years trying to create experiences, products and tools that allow us to stand out and to have the best connectivity and the best gaming experience. And I'm here to show you two of these tools. The first of these, if you allow me, I'm going to connect my phone. The first is called Gaming On, and Chema has talked about that. Gaming On is a tool that allows us to program and configure our network with 2 clicks in a very simple way to have the best gaming online experience and wireless as well. It's a smart Wi-Fi, isn't it? Yes, it's within smart Wi-Fi. And it's very easy to set up. So here's the startup page. So the first thing we need to do is click on to see all devices, and then we select the device that we want to activate. In this case, I'm going to try it with what we have here, the Mac. So go to the smart Wi-Fi, it's on the top right, and then manage gaming. So in this section, what we're going to see are 2 functions. First of these is going to allow us to prioritize traffic in a very simple way with 1 single click. There we go. What's happening here right now is that we're ensuring that all of the gaming packets are arriving in the right order and at the right time to ensure that we get the right experience. And the second function, which is door opening, what it does is it allows us to create the shortest route to the multi-gamer server. Now, because we sell this on Microsoft, we're going to do it through Microsoft. So with 1 single click, it's activated. So with 2 clicks, we've configured all of our network to have the best possible gaming experience. And now, if you allow me, I'm going to change my device. And I'm going to show you the second demo today, which Gemma also briefly talked about, which is smart Wi-Fi gaming. So it's a dashboard for gamers. So what it's going to allow us to do in this new function in Movistar Home is that the gamer is going to be able to see in real time everything that's happening online. And it's very easy to set up. We go to the applications panel. We can also do it through Aura as well. And we select Smart Wi-Fi Gaming. And Smart Wi-Fi Gaming, as it's, we set all the conditions. And here we see a network diagnosis to see that everything is compatible. And once you've done that, there's just 2 things. Choose the service you want to play with. As I said, it's Xbox Cloud Gaming. And then secondly, what device you want to use. And now you see, but it's the same as the MacBook. Now, why are we doing this? Well, this is where the magic happens. We're selecting MacBook because this is the one we've activated now in the Smart Wi-Fi application with Gaming On. And so as you can see here, you can see it below the MacBook. And what we can also see is that the network architecture is on the game device, which connects to the router in the home, and from there it goes up to the Game Pass, and that is the xCloud service. And above you can see certain pings and latency and jitters and other parameters that can help us to see what's going on with these packets, to see if there's any kind of problem, and that way we can then, while you're playing, you can see what's going on in real time. And just to finish, I'd like you to 3 key takeaways. The first of these is that the Smart Wi-Fi Gaming dashboard is available this year in Movistar Home. Second, the Smart Wi-Fi Gaming On application is active in 3 million homes. You can do it from home already. And the third point is that this thing that we've done with Gaming On in the home network, we're now doing it in the mobile network. So you can play in 5G at top quality. And whether you're good at it depends on you. So thanks very much. Thank you very much, Juan. So we're not just seeing the ping from the router, but from the router to the cloud service. Yeah, that's really interesting because gamers, they need to know this sort of thing. Right, so it's not just about playing, isn't it? You need to work as well. No, it's yep, that's true. And Juan, in the last 18 months, as part of this work, have you made any video calls? Yeah, thousands, lots of them. Has it ever happened? That you've got the mute on? No, it's never happened to me. Of course not. No. Yeah. Now, video calls are part of our daily lives for work, online classes, or consulting the doctor. And we do a lot of things on screen now, and this has become normal. And we've also normalized situations like the mute. And another thing that we're very used to is that the video is a bit pixelated, or it's jittery, or the image and the sound are not properly synchronized. But we don't want that in a video call, obviously. Now, they've improved their quality enormously, but images don't have the kind of quality that we're used to in other sorts of platforms. So in tweets, Netflix, or Movistar Plus. Now, Telefónica has one of the best networks in the world, but still there are certain times, because we're moving, or because we're far away, or because there's someone else on the Wi-Fi who's receiving data, or because we're uploading things to the cloud, and it always happens that at certain points the service of such sensitive services such as video calls are undermined. But we need to have this quality, because we want to have this feeling of closeness when we're talking to people online. So that's why in Telefónica we developed an application that stabilizes and improves the quality of the Wi-Fi at home. And it allows us to get this enhanced experience in our video calls. This is available on Windows, and it works with Zoom and with Teams. It's really simple, and I'm going to show it to you now.
Descargada.
Once the application is downloaded in our computer, we can find the oak icon between the clock and the Wi-Fi signal, and the color of the icon will give us real-time information on the state of the network and the status of the video call. And with a single click, we can select the video call in order to improve the experience. The app will go through our selection and will work for us behind the scenes in such a way that during the video call, at first sight, we can see the effect that it's having. Now let's have a look at a video with an example of a video call. And we did this last week, where we can see this effect here. And we have a video call where we have some cuts, and on the other side we can see how to minimize those quality calls by improving the experience of the video call. And in addition, in this specific case, the video call is a work meeting. So not only are we improving the video call experience, but we're ensuring that the meeting is much more productive. And as you can see, in this case, we had problems with cuts, and it could be cutting out or pixelated, or it may be a lack of synchronization between voice and image. But for this problem, we still don't have a solution. But for the rest of the problems, I encourage you to download the app. We have an app, hanzo.telefonica.com, and it improves the experience of the video calls. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Josue. Well, I downloaded the app a few weeks ago now, and it works really well, actually. So thank you to both of you for showing us how you're improving the home network. Now, if you realize here, this is a smart network that understands the type of app that is being executed on top of it. If it's a call, it prioritizes it. If it's a gamer, it does the necessary to ensure that the experience is perfect. So there's a lot more to do in the next few months. We will tell tell you about more of these things. But let's move on now to the second block. Everybody knows that Telefónica has millions of customers in many countries, and for any partner, any company to access those customers would be excellent. And we are doing just that. We have a lot of agreements of collaboration, co-marketing, reselling of products. But we want something more. And I think that we can make it a lot easier. What we want is to provide you with technological platforms. For those of you that have a product that you want to take to all Telefónica customers, you can do this in a digital manner, in an automated manner. And that is what we're working on. We have things that are up and running, but I wanted to focus on two examples which are very different. The first one has to do with television, with the living apps, and the second with the industrial apps that run on big facilities such as ports, airports, cities, etc. Now, let's begin first with television, with the living apps, because those who have come from Movistar Plus will know that the living apps can be accessed from the apps menu in Movistar Plus. When you access the apps menu, as Joma said, there are a lot of apps that we have been developing in the last few months and years, apps for edutainment to learn English, apps for video podcasts of all types of matters. We have e-commerce apps with Shop TV. And up until now, these apps have been developed with our partners in a kind of craftsmanship manner. And when you enter into these apps, it's a television type effect. It's another medium. It's not the mobile. It's not a PC. It's television. And the innovation that I'm presenting to you today is a platform that allows for integration in the Movistar Television Plus in a very straightforward manner. If you already have a mobile app or you have presence in the network, having a presence on television is from now onwards a lot more straightforward. We have a video that explains it very clearly. I mean, this is an integration with e-commerce that you have, and you can sell the same products on the television. Integration with any app you have can be put on TV with just a few clicks by selecting a template, and that's it. So I encourage you to take a look at that. And then now to conclude, we're going to go to another type of platform that we're creating, which is a platform to make easy the new industrial apps that are in facilities and factories so that they can become integrated very easily with the 5G network and edge computing. The technological advance that there has been recently in industrial apps is quite spectacular, hand in hand with AI and big data. And these apps need a particularly competent network. The Wi-Fi network is not enough for this. One needs to deploy a private 5G network that has edge computing so that all these apps can run correctly. We have made a lot of progress in the last few years. In Spain, with Telefónica Spain, we have deployed jointly with Navantia an app in the shipbuilding yards that allows technical remote help to be given with virtual reality to the shipbuilder. It's amazing, all based on 5G. And with the police in Malaga, we've created a system so that they can monitor big crowds, even when all the people who are in those crowds are using mobiles with a great deal of intensity. The police video has priority in the 5G network. And also in Spain, Telefónica Spain has worked with Gestamp in order to produce or create a factory that has a digital twin that behaves exactly the same as the real factory, to be able to do simulations to see that if one thing is changed place, what would happen. And all this is in the present time. We're already doing this. So the question is, what comes next? What more can we do to ensure that these apps can run on our 5G network and on our edge computing in an integrated fashion? And to tell us about this, we have Martín Lambas, who is responsible for this project in Telefónica. How are you, David? Well, I'm the last obstacle between now and lunch, so I will try to be as brief as possible. So, as David mentioned, in reality, talked about 3 specific cases of pilot studies in Spain, but apart from those, we've done 80-something others, and where we are applying 5G in real cases to give solutions to our customers. And we believe that what is coming is a digitization of the services. And we think that what has to happen now is to go from the current orientation of these projects, where we implement these new capabilities, to digitizing all of this and to creating real digital products on top of 5G and edge computing. And in order to achieve this, where we are getting our inspiration from is from the cloud world. Just as a thought process, raise your hands, all those of you who have used a cloud app in the last month, whether this be for video calls, storage, or whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, this is used widely. And how do we see 5G? Well, we think there's an increasing convergence between connectivity and cloud, because at the end of the day, 5G allows us to connect our devices, to generate data, take them to other apps. And if those apps are increasingly more in the cloud, which is the reality we're seeing today, what we're seeing there is a bigger convergence at a service level. And not only do we see this at the service level, but also in how we build this. At the moment, as you will have seen, most companies have created their products on top of cloud. And the reality is that this happens because those companies that generate their products in this way generate them faster, and they're able to grow more quickly. So therefore, we are following the same principles that have been followed in the cloud world, and we want to apply this to the 5G world. And there are 3 main characteristics here. Firstly, the simple experience. To deploy a virtual machine or a service in the cloud, whether it be in Dublin, Frankfurt, Paris, or wherever, can be done with a single click. It's very simple to use, and it's straightforward to use, because there are lots of apps that have been developed that allow us to automate a lot of these activities. Secondly, it's the business model. Cloud has brought us a model whereby, as we increase the resources and services we need in the cloud, what we pay for is adjusted so that we avoid initial big investments to implement any service. And thirdly, the ecosystem, perhaps with feedback from the other 2 systems. So there's been a big ecosystem that has been created around cloud. It doesn't matter then what the services are, whether they're technological or not. The products are created from scratch, taking cloud into account. And we want to do something similar, because in our vision, 5G and cloud, and this cloud might be centrally or in the border, on the edge, or with our customers, but we believe that the combination of 5G, which is the new generation of connectivity, and this new generation of cloud solutions will become the new normality for digital transformation in the next years. And this means it's got to reach many more customers that we're reaching out to today. So therefore, now what I'm going to do is try to imagine the future and try to show you an outline of how we imagine these same cloud principles applied to the world of 5G. First of all, ecosystems. This is where everything starts. And in reality, what our customers are asking us for are solutions that can solve real problems. And this is through artificial vision, or to improve quality processes in an automated manner, drones for logistics, or ACVs for elements within a factory. And these are cloud solutions. And for us, we have to create around all of these solutions a platform that ensures that these solutions are reintegrated with our connectivity and our cloud, i.e. when a customer wants to use these solutions, they shouldn't have to put a puzzle together with apps, with cloud connectivity, etc. But rather, we need to understand that everything is working correctly and that as Telefónica, we're selling end-to-end solutions. Secondly, the marketing, the pay-as-you-go, which we think is very natural in the cloud world. We want to have something very similar to connectivity. Not all services have the same needs. There are services that require very little attention, others that require a lot of throughput, and other services that will require a lot of devices to be connected, and they will have other needs. But we want to generate connectivity which is much more flexible, dynamic, that adapts better to the features of each service. And depending on those features, the business model is created with a pay system, depending on the value that is being provided. And thirdly, straightforwardness, simpleness. This can be seen from different points of view. Firstly, from the point of view of delivery. Right now, as I mentioned before, to do one of these projects is putting together a puzzle with a lot of hours of engineering, which ensures that all parts work correctly. But in the cloud world, that's not the case. We click and we are sure that something more will happen in an automated fashion and it will be available. We have this on our smartphones. When we deploy a new app onto our phones, we know it works. So we want to take these same experiences with a single click and deployment to the apps that we are going to put on top of 5G and cloud. And this will mean that the infrastructure is deployed and that the connectivity and services that we're deploying are there. And these are configured automatically as well. And then finally, they're tested to ensure that everything is working correctly. And the impact of this is to change the delivery times of these projects from weeks to months that we see today to hours or even minutes, which is our ambition. And this should have an impact on time to market, the time we take to generate value, and the cost structure, because these manual works have a lot of hours of engineering behind them. And finally, the straightforward experience from not only from the point of view of delivery, but also from the point of view of service consumption. As I said before, currently we see a service which takes end-to-end, which includes connectivity, cloud, and applications and services that we're going to put on top of that. So the consumer experience has to be unique, not having to have 4 things to see what is happening at each moment in the service, but a single portal, single visualization that allows us to see end-to-end in a very straightforward digital manner. And basically, that's what we're building. And as David mentioned before, we're working hand in hand with them. And not only do we talk and say how we see the future, but we're actually really building it. And we hope that very soon we'll see this in Telefónica products and with our colleagues from Telefónica Tech. Thank you very much, David. Right now, I will conclude and give the floor back to Elena, but I'm not sure whether you took note about what David said. He talked about deploying a 5G system, which is one of the most complex technological things that the human being has created, and to deploy it with a single click in any factory, airport, or industrial facility. This is truly revolutionary. Well, I'll leave it there, and I just want to remind you what we told you about improvements for gamers and for teleworkers, and we've talked about the best platforms so that partners can integrate in the Telefónica network and market to our customers via television and industrial facilities based on 5G and edge computing. Elena, you have the floor. Well, thank you very much, David. Don't leave, please, don't leave. Right, just 2 things I don't agree with you, and I want everybody to know about it. Firstly, nobody's leaving here until I finish. You're not the last obstacle, I am. And secondly, gaming is also working. Well, it's hard. Well, now we've clarified that, let's have a round of applause for David Del Val. Well, I charge per word, so I've got a few conclusions on what has been said in this core innovation section. I've taken notes. Irene Gomez said, oh my gosh, look how well this works. So I've downloaded this, and everyone's really enthusiastic, just like Tim is. And so I've got a few words here, David. Connectivity without a good network, you said at the beginning. It's game over, basically, without a good network. Secondly, straightforwardness, simple. We talked about 1 or 2 clicks, no more. You don't have to click 3 times, just 1 or 2 clicks. And then integration. David talked about integration, accessibility, quality, being close to families, and productivity of companies, those of us who work from home. And with that, we're giving you everything. What else could you possibly want? So therefore, the conclusions of this panel is call to action. We can't have an event such as today, a yearly one, without giving you homework. So call to action. Firstly, Telefónica partnerships. We've told you how we collaborate with third parties. So if you have any needs, if you've got anything in mind, if you feel inspired, as Irene Gomez said, get in touch with Irene Gomez department via the website. All the data's there, and we'd be only too pleased to help you because, as you will have seen, it's with partners from all over the world, all types. Secondly, homework. David said download the app for video calls, app.hanzo with an H and Z, telefonica.com. It's on the website. Download that app and the smart Wi-Fi app too. It's amazing, as you will have seen. So before bidding you farewell, I need to express my thanks. Subly is what we've called the videos, and Watch IT, as I said to begin with, because of the broadcasting through the social media, through Waira and YPass, which allows you to download the agenda of the agenda and the Hall of Fame that Irene talked about, and you just put your telephone up against it. So we've got a cocktail now, and we'd like to invite all of those of you who are here in person. COVID's still with us, so take into account the safety measures. Those of you who haven't come there, via streaming, have a bit of Spanish tortilla, and next year, please come in person. It's opening up to more people. And I'll just quote David del Val, as he was the last to speak, and I'll leave it with you for when we meet again. And he said, all of this is the future, or no, is the present. All of this is the present. What comes next? Well, he said, stay tuned, because we're going to tell you about lots more things when we see each other again. So thank you very much for your attendance, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you, and bye-bye.